Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Dark Powerrr, where we cover AEW Elevation, AEW Dark, and of course, NWA Powerrr. Thank you once again for tuning in. Remember to hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already. It allows us to do what we do, and we enjoy doing what we do for you. And it's just people, friends, talking about wrestling. That's what we do here on this channel. We cover a lot of different topics, and of course, let's get to Dark Powerrr tonight. So, not too much stood out. This was a kind of a paint by numbers episode of both Elevation and Dark. Not that there's anything wrong with that. You kind of need to have these kinds of shows sometime. Not every one of these can be as good as we kind of need them to be sometimes. We just have to get what we get. And there's nothing wrong with that, because Elevation is, I think they're still trying to find out what exactly they want to do with Elevation and how they want to place it, especially because, I mean, we got to look at it from a company perspective, right? We have Dark, so we know what we have with Dark. We're starting Elevation now, which we want to create to elevate people, right? But shortly thereafter, we find out that we are going to have Rampage. How is Rampage going to fit into all this? A part of me thinks that they should get rid of Dark in a way, because the matches on Dark feel kind of, I don't know, like they're not as important, which is weird because this week, to me, the matches that stood out to me more were on Dark, between Elevation and Dark. But at the same time, it just kind of feels as though there's going to be a lot of content, and they gotta differentiate these shows. They gotta do something, and that was one of the things that I liked about the showcase, the Elevation showcase. That was really cool, and I haven't seen that in some time. So I'm really hoping that comes back sooner rather than later. And yeah, let's get to it. So Elevation this week, some of the things that stood out to me was the Acclaim's tag match against Baron Black and Tamilian and Vanish. That one was a good one. Acclaimed, as always, are doing great work. The Matt Hardy-Jora Joel match itself didn't stand out to me that much. However, the promo that he cuts a little bit later in the show, Jora Joel, did, simply because, to what I was saying before, we need differentiation. We need things that are going to stand out. And this stands out because we do get promos, but this was kind of more of a storyline kind of creation where somebody is having some kind of conflict with the Hardy family office, and there is a reason for us to care about this person, and there's a reason for us to kind of be invested in a storyline, and it's something that I hope kind of stays on Elevation for a while. Doesn't, go to Dynamite or anything like that. I don't think Jora Joel is going to be on Dynamite. He seems rather green, and he was rather green when he was on the mic, but that being said, it's something that would fit perfectly with Elevation, and it would fit the theme of Elevation the best. So hopefully that does stay on Elevation, and it was something that stood out to me this week. Another thing was the Eddie Kingston and Pentagon tag match against Fuego del Sol and Very Morales. It kind of reinforces that the Death Triangle kind of faction, by extension including Eddie, I guess, is really hurting. That kind of outsider faction, because we have Rey Fenix, who is out with an injury, we have Jon Moxley, who is on dad duty, and we have Pac, who can't get clear visa travel, which just leaves Pentagon and Eddie. So there's a lot there that's to be desired, but these guys are making the most of it, and this was a good tag match that kind of just continues to build that momentum for them and keep them in the mix. I don't know whether or not they're going to be going after tag titles. I don't know. This is just to keep them their presence there, but if it is just to keep their presence there, it does its job, and that's really what we're looking for here on Dark and on Elevation. Finally, the main event of Elevation, Matt Sydal versus Jack Evans. I liked that one. Again, this is just like with the Jora Joel situation. It's something for us to care about. It's something for us to kind of sink our teeth into storyline-wise, and that's something that Elevation desperately needs and needs to continue to build. Bring back the showcase. Give me matches that are happening because of stuff that's happening on Elevation. It's very easy to do this. You have a match on Elevation that is built because of two guys getting into an argument backstage. Or, better yet, you have somebody do a showcase with Paul White, and then at the end of the showcase, you have somebody else interrupt and kind of get in Paul White's face, or even the other person's face, and say, you should have been interviewing me, not this person. And then next week, they have a match on Elevation. It's because of the previous week. There are little things that they're able to do if they want to continue to build out Elevation, and it's something that I do hope that they are able to really focus on, because that will help the show a lot when it comes to what makes it different from Dark, and then by extension, Rampage. So speaking of Dark, let's talk about Dark. I liked the Brian Pillman-Bear Bronson match. This one was a nice bruiser of a match, and it kind of gets you in the mind state of what Pillman versus Miro would look like, which is really the goal of the match. The goal is to say, if we give you Pillman versus Miro, this is what Pillman's going to have to overcome if he wants to win. Bear Bronson is not near the strength of Miro, but he has the size. He's not near the ferocity of Miro, but he brings the same difficulties that Miro would bring in the ring if Pillman's going to try to lift him, move him, displace him, whatever verb you want to use. It doesn't matter. Pillman's going to have a similar problem with Miro as he will with Bear Bronson. That's the point of the match. It conveyed it very well, and a good match while doing something that's more for somebody else. So kudos to Bear Bronson. Brian Cage versus Chandler Hopkins. This was good because it continued storyline. Storyline progression is something that's important on Dark and on Elevation, because just as much as they need to have self-contained storylines, they are built to pay off or develop storylines that are set up on Dynamite. So you need to have references to Dynamite, and you need to be talking about things that are going on. And having Ricky Starks on commentary and reinforcing that there are issues between Cage and Starks and Cage and Team Taz as a whole is very important. And I'm definitely picking up on the fact that Hobbs, it gets mentioned by Starks as potentially being stronger than Brian Cage, which strength is the whole thing about Team Taz, or at least in the case of Ricky Starks, a willingness to use nefarious means, shall we say. And finally, the main event of Dark really kind of stood out to me. Stu Grayson versus Serpentico, simply because Stu Grayson, I've said it before, seems like a guy who is on the cusp of being a breakout for the Dark Order and for AEW itself. He does remind me of Cesaro in a certain way. He has somewhat of the look. He has a lot of that strength. And it just is somebody who I think can really get over well with fans. And I like that they're giving him main events. Because sometimes these guys may be taping them out of order, right? They're not taping them necessarily in order of the matches as they're happening. But I'm pretty sure they tell these guys. I'm pretty sure there's a rundown of whose match is actually going to be the main event. So these guys know that the company is putting a lot of faith and a lot of trust in them to carry a show. So kudos to everybody involved for this one, and hopefully we get to see more of Stu Grayson as potentially a breakout star. Speaking of breakout stars, there's going to be something on tonight's NWA Powerrr that is geared towards trying to create breakout stars, but doesn't necessarily get the job done. Okay, so let's start with Strictly Business. Strictly Business has an interview to start off the show. It feels as though every single NWA Powerrr now is starting with some kind of Strictly Business interview. It's getting a little tiresome. They need to kind of switch that format up. But here they're talking about it makes sense at least today, because they're previewing the triple threat main event, Parrow, Adonis, Latimer. We've heard about this match for a while. We know what's going to happen here. Or what's on the line, really. And we know that it's really a 2-on-1 handicap match. So how is Parrow going to be able to try to overcome these two guys? That's what we're interested in seeing. And all this kind of makes a very good point that Billy Corgan makes these matches. And people always kind of get upset at Aldis for maneuvering or finagling his way into positions of power, or protecting his power. But at the same time, Billy is the one who allows these loopholes or allows these situations to happen. Billy made a battle royal where to figure out who is going to face Aldis for the title, and says that the only people who can participate are people who are not champions. Well, easy thing to do. Nick has Adonis vacate the title. It's not Nick's fault that Billy made that dumb loophole. Now, from an out-of-character perspective, if they wanted to get the job done, there were of having Aldis try to protect himself, there were smarter ways to do it. But within what they chose, Aldis isn't really an asshole because he took advantage of a loophole that somebody else put in there. So, And Aldis points out that here, he did not make this match. He didn't put Parrow in this situation. It was Billy Corgan. Billy Corgan's the one who put Parrow in this triple threat against Latimer and Adonis. It's not their fault. So, in a sense, it's always good when the heel is able to just give you enough nuggets of truth that you're like, wait a minute, he's kind of right. And it infuriates you a little bit more because you're like, damn, this is that much more annoying when you can tell that the heel is right and you still don't want to like him. But anyway, after this, we have a Crimson interview regarding Slice Boogie. We know that we're going to be getting a grudge match between the two of them later tonight. We have our first match of the night, which is the Mystery Man taking on Mims. This one was a little weird, so I'm pretty, I think I've said it before on a previous episode, but I'm pretty sure that's Robert Anthony. This really confirmed that it's Robert Anthony to me, but I didn't like this match because I didn't think that this needed to be as long as it was. The point is to get the Mystery Man over. Have him squash Mims. And not saying to take anything away from Mims. Whoever is the opponent, Mystery Man should be squashing them because you're supposed to be getting over how dangerous this person is, and the fact that we don't know who is under the mask is supposed to make it that much more of a mystery and that much more dangerous. So reinforce that level of dangerous and have him beat this person decisively without an issue. I don't know. That part of me, as much as I don't like just squash matches for the sake of squash matches, this was definitely a match that could have been shorter. I think that maybe is really where I'm going with it. It could have been a lot shorter than it was. But when you see the next match, that kind of makes sense as to why it went a little bit longer, because normally NWA does not give us that many matches or long matches. But if they'd done this, if they'd shortened this one with the next match, oof. And what we're talking about here is Tyrus taking on Jordan Clearwater and Black G's. Now, this one's a weird one. So the strategy of Black G's makes sense. All right. So if we recap last week, Tyrus was cutting a promo or having an interview with Austin Idol. Jordan Clearwater came to be a messenger saying Black G's wanted to talk to you, yada yada yada. They got into it, and Tyrus said he wants to face Clearwater and G's this week. Okay, now we're at this week. For some reason, this match got made because, again, Billy Corgan, as we were pointing out last week, just lets people do whatever the hell they want, in a sense, despite not letting Aldis do whatever he wants, or trying to say that that Aldis can't make matches, but Aldis can make matches. But Corgan puts people in this. It's a weird kind of confusion when it comes to who is creating the show. But anyway, Black G's does not want Jordan Clearwater, who is his client, to really get hurt in this match. Makes perfect sense. Tyrus is supposed to be a monster. Why? Because he squashes people. Speaking of the other one. But his idea of how to reduce the amount of pain and suffering that they have to go through is to just lie down. And Jordan Clearwater doesn't want to do it. They go back and forth. And then eventually, Jordan Clearwater decides, okay, fine, I'll just lay down. And lays down. And Tyrus has a really funny way of pinning them. He puts his foot on, because it's a 2-on-1 handicap match, he puts his foot on Clearwater and then just his finger on Black G's. I thought that was a pretty funny, nice touch. But if you had this short of a match with a short, really squash match of a Mystery Man versus Mims, there would have been a problem. But what I would have done is not have booked this way. I would have made the Tyrus Clearwater G's match next week, or I would have made the Mystery Man versus Mims next week. So we'll see. I mean, maybe there's some reason why, and we'll find out next week why this could not happen this way. So future me may need to be apologizing for present me. But either way. One thing future me will not be apologizing for is this next segment. This is Serena Deeb, Thunder Rosa. Okay. So the two women are out to have an interview. Thunder Rosa is upset that Serena Deeb is, technically speaking, the number one contender because she has a contract clause that gives her a rematch. Classic rematch clause in wrestling. Fine. Serena Deeb is saying that she carried the title for all these months, and that in a way she kind of carried the company because she was a very visible person for the NWA. Fine. They go back and forth, and Deeb correctly states, anytime you want to face me, you can face me. She's a face, that's what she's supposed to say. And she has the contractual rematch. So she's putting it on the line, but she already knows she can beat Thunder Rosa because that's who she beat for the title. Okay. Rosa comes across almost as the heel here and is very derogatory and mean, in a sense, towards Serena Deeb. Okay, that's fine. If you're going to have two faces go at it, one of them's got to have a little bit of heelishness about them. That's no issues there. Okay. The problem happens when they turn towards who they're asked who they think is the next kind of breakout star or somebody that they have their eye on in the NWA. Serena Deeb says Kylie Rae and brings out Kylie Rae. Kylie Rae is doing her face character. She's just happy to be here. She's super proud of both of these women for being incredible. She's in awe of who they are. Rosa says, Cállate. You gotta be quiet. You gotta be quiet, man. This is not gonna work. And so this is where it gets awkward. So Thunder Rosa is now going to talk about who she thinks it's going to be. She puts over this person, clearly indicating that it's Sky Blue, like super clearly. And if you don't realize that that's who she's intending to call out, once they get to the eventual Sky Blue reveal, just like rewind a little bit and re-listen to what Rosa's saying, and she clearly like mentions the sky's the limit and so on and so forth. But anyway, she's trying to bring out Sky Blue, and who comes out but Melina? So now Melina is kind of being heelish towards towards Deeb and Kylie Rae. Here's this, it's a little awkward because Melina and Rosa, like 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, were faces. And technically they still are. On top of that, when they did the coronation for Camille, Melina was the one who interrupted and had to get put in her place by genocide. So she's going to be the face against Camille, but the heel against Deeb and Kylie. Part of that seems a little off. And I get the issue because I get the conflict because AEW is doing something kind of similar right now with Nyla Rose and Britt Baker. The thing is, I trust Britt to be able to be a better heel than Nyla when Nyla is being a face towards her than Nyla is a heel normally. Like, I trust Britt to be able to be that much more heinous that I am rooting for Nyla, or it works where I'm supposed to root for Nyla, even though elsewhere Nyla is an asshole to people. I don't trust Camille to be able to do the same. And Melina, I guess, whatever. Okay, that's just... okay. Sky Blue comes out, and then Melina kind of heals up further on everybody. Eventually, Rosa throws a fist at Deeb. Whole thing goes sideways. A little bit of a brawl breaks out. They brawl to the back. There were multiple points of the segment, but two of the big points were to get Kylie Rae over and Sky Blue over. They did nothing like that. None of that worked because Kylie Rae does not look any better than she did previously. And people who watch NWA already know who Kylie is, so you're not really introducing her to anybody new. And Sky barely got any mic time and barely got any presence. And on top of that, when she did have time, she wasn't able to fight properly against Melina on the mic, and if you're gonna look bad, like don't Don't put her in that position. And on top of it, she's being brought out by somebody who's acting like a heel, and she herself is acting like a face towards Melina. It's kind of a convoluted mess, and the only reason why it's that much worse is because of the very next segment. And the very next segment is Taryn Terrell with Genocide. And Taryn Terrell, weirdly, does the most masterful job out of anybody, any of the women tonight, to be a heel and to put Genocide over, who doesn't say a word during this entire interview. She literally just flexes and gets put over so well by Taryn Terrell, saying Deeb talked about Kylie and Rosa talked about Sky, but they both are overlooking Genocide. And it was very well done, and it just made the previous segment just look kind of a mess. And I don't know, something about that just... They could have done a better job. Anyway, we now have a grudge match between Crimson and Slice Boogie. This was actually a pretty decent match. Slice Boogie does a good job of being an asshole heel. Crimson is okay as a face, but the problem here with this match is that it's a no DQ match, and really nothing no DQ-ish happens. At one point, Crimson belts Boogie twice with his belt. He takes off his belt and hits him twice. But outside of that, there's nothing really that justified this being a no DQ. Grudge match, maybe, but no DQ, I don't think that it necessarily deserve that versus when I'm on Fusion of Honor with Ness, and all of a sudden out of nowhere somebody does something that should be a DQ, and then Riccaboni and Coleman have to be like, oh well, this is a grudge match, so the ref's gonna let them have a little bit more of a leeway. Here it's the opposite. We're told that they have a leeway, and they barely use the leeway. The finish of the match involves Slice Boogie having a chair. He wedges the chair in the ring. He is now being dismantled, and Crimson goes to pin him, but at the 3 count, he gets off of him, so it breaks the count, and he goes in to get the chair to beat up on Slice Boogie more. Jax Dane gets up on the apron and gets into some kind of argument with Crimson. Crimson says, fine, you know what, I'm not going to use the chair because you're trying to take this chair from me. He goes, hits his finisher again on Slice Boogie and pins him for the win. He and Jax are not good, not on the same page. And the problem here is that apparently Billy Corgan just loves to break up tag teams, because he's doing the same storyline of some kind of dissension in the War Kings that he is doing in the tag champions of Stevens and Kratos. Why? I'm not sure. But where is it supposed to lead? Are they going to break up and then feud with each other? I don't know. Something needs to happen there if this is their start of some kind of program. This drawing board needs to maybe be redone. I kind of wanted Slice Boogie to win, but I can understand you have a little too many powerful heels when it comes to Strictly Business plus Tyrus. So I can understand giving a face Crimson a win, and that would make sense, but telling me that you're going to kind of transition him into a storyline with his tag team partner where they have issues, that part doesn't really work for me. Which leads us to our main event. Here we have Chris Adonis taking on Thom, Latimer, and Parrow. It is a triple threat match with the winner going to face JTG to figure out who is going to be the next national champion. Now, we kind of have a feeling, because there's a face that won the first match, JTG, that one of the heels is going to win this match. So the question is how? The question is, how are they going to do it? And I got to say, despite the flack that I have given NWA throughout this episode, this part was very, very well done. Very well done. So the match is basically, we're going to beat the shit out of Parrow whenever he is in the ring. And when he rolls to the outside of the ring, we're going to have a gentleman's agreement match. It's a classic situation when you're having a triple threat and 2 people are on the same side. Eventually, one of them is going to try to pin the third guy. The other one of them is going to get upset, and it's going to turn into a fight for real. That's basically what happens. Now, just because it's one of the oldest tricks in the book with wrestling doesn't make it bad, and doesn't mean it's overused if you do it properly. And what they do is do it properly. Normally what happens is the two heels, one of them ends up pinning the other, or the face ends up pinning one of them. Now, we can't have the face pin one of them, so it has to be either Latimer or Adonis who wins. What happens is that Latimer is the person who breaks the rule. He causes the division. He's the first one to try to pin Parrow, and Adonis is like, no, get the hell out of here. Later in the match, they have Parrow beat, and Adonis tells Latimer to go up and hit a moonsault. So Latimer's like, all right, cool, I'll go hit the moonsault. He goes up to the top rope. Now, if you're picturing this in your mind, because you haven't been able to watch yet, or you're just not going to watch, if you're going to hit somebody on a moonsault, you got to be crouched, and you got to be able to have your back to what's going on in the ring. And when he has his back in the ring, Adonis goes and steals the pin. Beautiful moment, very well done. Gotta say that I liked the planning of it and the execution of it compared to what we have seen throughout the rest of this episode. But we now know we're going to have Adonis JTG. I'm looking forward to that match. That should be a really good one. It's kind of a throwback to old WWE, but we will see what happens. So, guys, until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. These are some pretty good episodes, and I'm looking forward to seeing how exactly NWA continues to move forward as we build towards our 73rd anniversary pay-per-view and our all-women's pay-per-view, which we didn't get too much news about now, but we will probably be getting more down the road, I think soon, because of just the nature of the timeline. They have time to do it, but I think they're going to start trying to hit us with it to promo it properly. So until next time, guys, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Remember to hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later.